Okay, so the variety show evaluation. In the opening scene, we were brought to a classroom. We're given the introduction by the two characters who come on at the start, played by Leah and Harriet. That was then followed by the classroom scene from Matilda. What I did during this scene was I portrayed a small child, a 7-year-old child, so I tried to be quite manic, tried to be quite over the top, quite eccentric with my movement, and because of course it's variety, you have to get that humour, that comical aspect in there, because if it's not entertaining for an audience, a variety show, then there's no point putting it on. I feel as though that scene was a good energetic start to the show. I think perhaps we could have been more childlike, and we perhaps should have rehearsed something so it became more devised than it actually was. I kind of felt like we were more individuals in the scene, whereas kids would get into a fight and then make up again really quickly, or they would do silly, stupid things and then move on completely. The scene, although saying that the song was successful, and I think the scene was successful in terms of giving the audience a really big opening to the show and kind of putting them in context. The following scene was Hard Knock Life, in which I was getting changed into my dog costume. This was then followed by the dog scene, which was successful. I played a hot dog salesman, so in a neat bit of direction from Kim, she cut the lights to black, and then after about 3 seconds, put them up again, and then I appeared, and then I was straight in the spotlight, and I had a hot dog sign. I was dressed as a big dog. I tried to do my best and to portray kind of like a Cockney kind of street salesman, kind of taking the aspects from the start of the film called Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels, and taking the opening lines of that and put them into the dog's attitude and the dog's humour. This was followed by a lot of audience interaction, trying to involve them. I think because a lot of the scene was improvised, I perhaps could have done something slightly more comical, something slightly more entertaining. It was still energetic, and I still managed to keep the audience's attention, and it didn't at all kind of fade off into nothing. It was still there was still something always there, but I felt like I could have been much more dynamic and much more in your face than I actually was. Then the scene where Fugue for Tin Horns, where the characters come on, and we had a bit of dialogue between myself and another character who thought I was a horse. This was successful, made the audience laugh, deliberately kind of getting slightly more frustrated when this guy said that he thought I was a horse, and yeah, ultimately the scene turns to song, and so we kind of broke the fourth wall and began discussing oh, you're not going to do a song, that kind of thing, quotes like that, and identifying that it is actually a piece of theatre, and that's humorous, and the audience can enjoy that and can relate more to this kind of miserable, angry character. This is followed by Guys and Dolls number, Crapshooters Dance. Crapshooters was successful, very successful in its drama, definitely, in its performance. I think for myself, I think I have that view. Not brilliant, just good. I think it was well received. Deliberately trying to act instead of just perform, act it. I mean, you have to take on the Bronx-like characterization of these characters, these Yankees, these New York kind of gangsters, and how they all have illegal kind of games of craft shooters and all that kind of stuff. And I thought, yeah, it was a good dance, and it certainly the audience responded well to it, and yeah, it was fun to do. There was a lot of dynamic poses which linked perfectly to the Guys and Dolls theme. Then this was followed by the scene between the lieutenant and Wild Bill Hickok and Calamity Jane and Adelaide Adams, but it's not actually Adelaide Adams, it's Katie, her cleaner. This scene was successful. It was a scene where where my character Wild Bill discusses with Danny, Lieutenant Danny, and we all have a conversation about Calamity Jane, and then she turns up, and then we have a discussion, and then there's all kinds of little sexist hints about this character Bill, and that broke into song. It's quite a humorous song. There's the Lieutenant and Wild Bill, my character, we decided as if we were closing the bar, we didn't want people to dance in our bar. So during the song we'd go around and we'd put chairs and tables and things as if we were closing the bar. This scene was then followed by the interval. After the interval in the second act, we open with the Deadwood Stage, which was another Calamity Jane number. I still played Wild Bill Hickok in the scene. The number was good, it was well sung, we managed to perform it, act it, give it some venom, give it some power, some energy. Despite the fact we were sitting down for the whole thing, we still managed to deliver a performance and provide character, especially through the kind of romantic interest that Bill has to Calamity Jane. The following scene where we've accidentally driven into Little Orphan Annie, you kind of see a more sensitive side to Bill. He's much more, are you okay? More kind of careful about it. He's more kind of interested in the orphan's well-being, and he asks her kind of whether she's okay and whether she needs help. The scene was followed by Annie singing, and this was followed by Matilda, the song number Naughty, which again I was involved in as a small child, trying to produce that eccentric child, 7-year-old wacky nature about. This was followed by another song from Annie, Easy Street, and then it was followed by another Calamity Jane scene where I played Wild Bill. In the following scene, what I should say about Wild Bill is I tried to kind of convey my best Western kind of gunslinger character who would walk around and strut around the place. Very powerful character, there's all about masculinity and who's got the control and who's stronger and who's got more power. So there was a kind of slowness to Wild Bill. He owned the place. He knew where he was, and he wasn't afraid to express his opinion or raise his temper if he needed to, or say what he actually thought. So in this scene, there's an argument between Wild Bill and Calamity Jane, and so gradually the tension builds between the two, and then they break out into song, and they break out into "I Could Do Without You." "I Could Do Without You" is then quite an energetic number, quite quirky, quite off-key, quite friendly, although with sinister undertones. It's quite kind of comedic, and you can tell that there's this actual kind of attraction between the two characters. But again, with Calamity Jane being a tomboy, there's that masculinity side to her, so she wants to have power, and so does he, and so together it kind of there's a tension between them that kind of flutters into more of a romance. This was then followed by "Sit Down, You're Rocking the Boat" as Harry the Horse and Nicely Johnson and characters like that. I played Benny Southstreet, again getting my Bronx attitude, getting the voice out and let the brother talk and things like that, you know, that kind of Bronx attitude that's quite frequent within gets common with gangster history and a kind of Italian side of New York. The number was successful, very energetic, a lot of performance and acting of the characters and over exaggerating, because you're mocking the audience, you're mocking the passengers on the boat, you're basically doing whatever you can to make them feel awful, but to make yourself laugh as a character. And so overall I think the variety show was successful. I think it lacks some key kind of basic stances, a few basic kind of techniques in terms of performance. I think it could have been done slightly more well rehearsed, slightly more choreographed, slightly more well thought out and devised. But overall, I think the audience had a good time. It was entertainment, it was comedic, and it was quite kinetic and had a good, nice pace to it. So overall, I think it was good.